Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated.
Have you prepped
Nerdcore
the
used to
guest
be
for your
just a
intro, or is that going to
made-up
throw?
word. MCs shied away from-
It's just an intro. There's no song on this intro.
Oh, you're not doing the song? Okay.
No, because I highly messed up the education one last week.
You did a little bit. Well, you didn't mess it up. You nailed it, but it was
The
questionable.
context wasn't there. Yeah, it was very questionable. I did Another Brick in the Wall, part 2, not thinking about the context of the song. I don't pay attention to lyrics to songs. I go along with it. Like I just go along with the
How it
beat
makes you
and
feel.
stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
I do not pay attention to any lyrics. And so this is where we are. But welcome to Every Man's Guide to Nerddom, where we are 230 to 40-something-year-olds who talk about pretty much whatever we want. I'm Chris.
And I'm Kyle. And if you guys would like to hang out with the community outside of just listening to us on, whatever you're listening to us on, we'll have links in the show notes down below for our Discord. You guys can hop in there. There's lots of cool conversations going on. We're talking about anything and everything nerdy, from movies, TV shows, comics, anime, video games, beer's in there, wrestling, sports balls, all the fun stuff is in there. So if you guys want to hang out,
Now education.
So hop in there. Lots of talks going on. And then if you want to hang out with Chris and myself live, we play video games very poorly every Friday and Saturday night, broadcast to the world on Twitch. You can find Chris over there. Oh, I did it right that time. At
That's how you get the double wave.
GUYVERUNT01. That's at Twitch, twitch.tv/GuyverUnit01. And then I'm just KSIG, K_SIG. We play community games on Friday night, and we play indie horror games on Saturday night together for a few hours. And then whoever else wants to join in, you guys are welcome, as long as we got the slots. So,
And we get scared a lot, and we scream
we scream a lot. Chris injures himself quite often.
a lot.
It's fun. It's
I'm
fun. At
old.
least watch for that. So
At least watch for that one. And yeah, what are you gonna do?
what are you gonna do?
We are continuing something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. Not kind of, it is education. This is what part 2. This is our twofer. Because I graduated from Oklahoma schools. That's twofer.
Both of us.
We got this a twofer. This is part 2. Our first one was with Dr. Justin, and according to Hughes, if you read the comments in the episode discussion, long-winded Dr. Justin, according to Hughes.
Yeah, we were actually just guests on his show, I think.
We were.
Yeah.
It was the Justin show.
Yeah, we were just
And
there
then-
for the ride.
Lovely Shelby,
Mhm.
Amazing second grade teacher. And now we've got part 2, where we have she is very close to my heart. We've been friends for a while now. And she happened to win the most prestigious education award in the state 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. Mrs. Rebecka Peterson.
Hello.
Hello. She is the State Teacher of the Year for the state of Oklahoma for 2022. So
Wow.
Yeah, awesome.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
for-
having me.
Oh,
And
thank you for
congratulations.
Thank you.
thank you for agreeing to do our little nerdy podcast.
My joy.
And we're actually going to have Rebecca's husband on at some point too, because I want to say he's a math nerd also, for accounting, and he's the one who pays me. So I want to make sure I keep him happy.
Yeah.
He
Yeah, always
actually
keep
had-
that guy happy.
Yeah, no, we're definitely going to keep that guy happy. Even though he offers me banana bread and doesn't deliver.
He does not deliver.
Kyle, apparently Rebecca makes this most amazing banana bread, and there was supposed to be some for me. And she messaged me and asked how it was. And I said, "What banana bread?" And she kind of outed her husband, their Brett. So I emailed him and go, "Hey, I hear your wife makes awesome banana bread." And his response, his email back was, "It is delicious. Rebecca makes great banana bread. You should try it sometime. He was supposed to have given it to me.
He ate it. Instead, he ate
He
it.
ate it. Yeah.
Just like in lieu of payment, or were you like you still getting
COVID time.
paid and the banana bread both?
Maybe it was in lieu of payment.
Mm.
Oh,
That's
I probably
fine,
didn't
man.
get paid that 2 weeks.
I mean, you get paid or your banana bread. You got shafted
Or
all the way
banana
around.
bread. Man, what's wrong with that?
Oh,
So, Rebecca, why don't you tell us, now that you've heard about banana bread for 5 minutes, why don't you tell us what do you teach and how long you've taught for?
Yeah. Well, I currently teach AP Calculus. I have kind of taught the range of math classes, and this is my 13th year as an educator, my 10th year at Union. Prior to coming to Union, I actually taught at the college level. But really just, I love high schoolers. I just think they're super funny and fun and really love spending my day with them.
If you guys are watching the video right now, Rebecca has her husband Brett with us right now on the table. He shouldn't be. He needs a haircut.
a nice stash. Very nice stash. Yeah.
Brett, you look wonderful.
Unfazed.
It's her cat. Yeah. And then I forgot to change that one. Kyle, this is you.
Yeah. So, do you like the premise of the show and like kind of set that tone for it is we wanted to talk about not just this show, but like the show in general. Like the big idea is that everybody is nerdy about something. Everybody's passionate about something. And it's not always the stereotypical like nerdy things that you think about with comics and video games and superheroes and things like that. It's a feeling that someone gets when they're talking about something they're passionate about and that they're super excited about. And that's part of why we're doing this. Like there's this like nerdom to education and
100%.
and like would you, but in also I guess in the general sense of nerdiness, would you consider yourself a nerdy educator?
Yes.
And if you do, why?
I mean, I have 2 degrees in math, and
That's all we needed, really. We're good.
the most popular person in the room. Yikes. Yeah, no, I very much relate to what you're saying. So that's how I feel about mathematics. Like I love showing my students like the ubiquity of calculus. It is everywhere. Like anytime you see a rate or accumulation, like that is calculus. And I get like such a high like showing my students just the beauty of math. And I think we get to answer what I find are really interesting questions in calculus, like, you know, what's been the average value of a Bitcoin over the last month, or like when is the US population going to hit an inflection point, or when is my body going to allow me to fall asleep after drinking a cup of coffee at 6 p.m. or whatever. Just really fascinating ideas. And these concepts are not answerable. Is that a question, a word?
It is now.
With just like
we don't have Justin on this week, so we're good. We can like
so you can say whatever you want.
We can butcher English all we want to. We're fine.
Yeah, but these are like questions that algebra techniques can't answer. So calculus is really the study of harnessing the power of infinity to answer questions that algebra fails to answer. So I get very excited about that, which I think most definitely classifies me as a nerd.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a great thing. But Kyle, okay, did you hear her statement though?
A lot
She's
of
the
math.
Thanos of Oklahoma. She's harnessing the power of infinity to create something. And that is a joy in her students.
Anti-Thanos, because he harnessed the power of infinity to destroy something by half.
Maybe she's destroying hatred of math.
That's right. See, my philosophy is everybody's a math person.
I would argue that with me, because when I got asked what 2 times 2 was and I answered Texas, I knew math was not for me.
No.
Maybe it was the teacher.
But no, she's right. She's absolutely right. Everyone is a math person.
I was
in
going to
some
say
way.
she's absolutely right. It was the teacher. Like, dang.
It was the teacher. No, it was the teacher.
100% right.
She was
Call him
mean to
out
me.
on
She
it.
told me, yeah, she told me 2 times 2 was Texas, and I was right. But no, that's I really like your explanation of that, Rebecca. It's kind of it's an easier way to break down stuff because I've never thought of it like that. And that's something that you broke it down to where I could understand it for
Yeah.
your passion, which is really cool.
And I think that's what we have to do as teachers, like we all picked our subject for a reason because we love it, right? And then the key is for our students to see that passion as well. Because I think all of us, like at the human level, we are drawn to passion, even if we're not passionate about math, like if we see that someone else is that I like respect, you can make pretty deep connections through that.
Which is awesome. That's great to hear. See how much shorter her answer was, and it got right to the point. Justin.
Yeah, I hope he's listening.
Justin.
We were still at this point of the last episode. We were still introducing Justin, or he was introducing himself. One or the other. Either way,
we love you, Justin.
Yeah.
So
one thing that we've talked about before, not just with the teaching thing, but with just connecting with other people, is trying to find that common ground, something that the kids are interested in, which is, typically something, you find some common ground, like a lot of times just pop culture things, common ground to relate things to, and not even necessarily relating the subject, but being able just to relate to the students, to where they connect. Is there anything that you do, or that you like, that you bring into class that helps you relate with the students on a level where they'll want to be engaged?
Yeah, I think the textbook answer is like build relationships with your students, and it's not wrong. It's just like we don't talk about how to build those relationships, I think, at least at maybe the high school level. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do that. I think you have to really stay true to yourself as a teacher, because there's no like one way to be a great teacher, but for me, I'm an introvert, and so it's very comical that I teach at the second largest high school in the state. I purposely don't use the restroom during passing periods. I'm just like, I will wait till lunch. I don't need to be out there. It gives me anxiety.
I do the opposite. I wait until I go to work, so then I'm on the clock. And
me too.
Yeah.
Even though I'm salaried, it lost its joy now.
But so for me, it's like it's really important to get to know my students outside of like the academic context. And again, I do better in like a smaller setting, and I'm really, really passionate about stories. And so I have my calculus students, all 110 this year, sign up for a time like outside of instructional time. So before school, after school, during lunch, to just come tell me their story, because they have to listen to my story the first day of school. And we just chat, and I just ask them to tell me about themselves, and I'll have questions if I need them, but really it's just a time to learn about them. And we may have a ton in common, we may have not much at all in common, but it doesn't really matter because we're listening to each other. And there's that quote of, there isn't anybody you couldn't love once you knew their story. And I think that's so true in education. And sometimes we do just kind of get so bogged down with all the responsibilities of teaching. And it can be understandably so easy to jump to like, why is this kid acting this way? But like once I know their story, there's just, and I think once they know mine too, like there's mutually just so much more grace to go around. And it's incredible like how the classroom space sort of shifts, like after I've sat and listened to, 100+ stories. And it takes a good 10 weeks to get through those sessions, and they're really heavy 10 weeks. I mean, even at the age of 16, 17, 18, like the mountains, I mean, Chris knows the mountains they've climbed so young is heart-wrenching. And still they come to class, I mean, almost every day with a smile on their face, like ready to learn calculus. Just like what an incredible joy and also responsibility to like get to be a part of their academic career. But yeah, just knowing where they come from is, for me, step one. And that's how I kind of start to build the relationships. Again, there's no formula to this, there's no, as much as we want to think there's no real like textbook to teaching. I think it is so important to stay true to who you are. And for me, I just really enjoy talking to people and listening. So that's kind of how we start. Other things I do just throughout the years, I will celebrate every single birthday, half birthdays if they're in the summer. We practice mindfulness because I teach some, self-proclaimed like pretty stressed out kids, and so one way, I think it's not just important for me to connect to them, but I think it's really important for them to connect with their own minds. And so we do Mindful Mondays where I kind of teach them some breathing techniques. And I think even just that act of like, I'm going to teach you something that's not content related also really helps build the relationship, because they see like, oh, she's interested in like who I am as a person, not just who I am as like a math student. We've done like pen pals with 4th graders at Darnaby, another Union elementary or Union school. And that's just really incredible to see that mentorship kind of blossom. We play a lot of games. I've been really fortunate to receive incredibly generous grants. So I have a lot of like card games and board games in my classroom, and I try to just take 20 minutes every week or two to just have a brain break and have a fun time, because they spend so much time in school. Like it to some extent, like it needs to be fun as well, I want them to like look forward to coming to class, and I want them to know that they're going to have a good time. Like that's not to say that they're not going to struggle. I very much am a proponent for productive struggle. You will hear me say that struggling in mathematics is no more the enemy than sweating is in football. Like it's proof that you're in the game. And so, but I like to mix that like productive struggle with having just a good time, and all that built through relationships.
Where were you when I was in high school and struggling with math? Where were you at?
Probably in high school as well, Chris.
Yeah, I know. That's such a great approach and outlook to education. It's very refreshing to hear, because I think one of the things you hear now, especially during the pandemic, what is this, year 3 we're into now?
Yeah, third school year.
Yeah, it's the struggles, how terrible it is.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to hear this optimistic outlook on, I want to get to know you as a person. You're not just my student, you're a person. Tell me your story. That is so cool to me.
I mean, we have to though, because it can be so draining. And so we have to be so very intentional about practicing joy. And to me, joy is not binary. Like joy is not the opposite of sadness. Joy can hold it all. Like it can hold the really tough aspects of teaching, and recognize that, right? Well, that really was not great. But joy can also hold the good. And I think that joy insists on the good and the light and the true having the final word, understanding that it wasn't all good, you know, but insisting on the good having the final say.
So you said you had 110 kids this year. Is that a light year?
That's a very light year.
What is what's your normal load?
140.
So any of you enemies of education who say teachers get paid enough, you know, classroom sizes here in Oklahoma are just fine. 140 kids in 6 hours.
Yep, I've had 37. You in one class, you kind of like, you're like, well, maybe someone will be absent today, otherwise I'm sitting on the floor. Yeah,
There's not enough. There's not enough of you to go around. There's not enough desks.
Correct.
There's not enough books. There's not enough money.
No, there's not. That report that the legislators just released a couple months ago, and 12% of mathematics, secondary mathematics teachers have a degree in math or math ed. So yeah, there's not enough of us, you know.
And it breaks my heart.
Yeah,
it really does, because usually when I hear from Rebecca during the week, I know that there's either a problem, it's something big. It's never, hey, my L key on my keyboard stuck. It's never stuff like that. It's usually like my entire system's down and some kids set fire to my whole cart of laptops, and then they threw an iPad through a window. You know, it's like something major, or it's like, hey, I've got.
That doesn't sound like you totally made that up. Like, it feels like there's some like real life substance in that.
Every single one of those scenarios has happened. Every single one of those scenarios has happened. Just like, you know how like there's like the rules you see like at amusement parks, like don't pee in line.
That's like a suggestion. That's not really.
Okay, that's a suggestion for Kyle. But
More
for the rest of us,
than
there's a reason that rule is in place. It's because it happened before. Like, we don't cut off websites because we want to. It's like
right.
oldgrannyporn.com. There's a reason we have that blocked.
It also sounds very specific. I'm not even going to ask. I don't even want to know.
We were testing out our new filter, and I had to test out. I just typed in porn, and the first thing that came up was old hairy granny porn. Literally the first search term in pictures and videos. And I'm like, and of course, you know, our guy who's in charge of the web filter, that part of the web filter is just dying. He goes, that was under your login. And I go, I know. So yeah, there's a reason for that.
That's in your algorithm now. That's good to know.
But Google has it. It's like, what is Chris like?
Yeah. Well, we'll just turn off the internet for everybody now.
Well, we're just not, you know, that part of town, we're not going to have internet. Yeah, so back to it again, Rebecca, this is why we have the flow. Because we do this a lot.
I love it.
World really easily, especially about, anyway.
Kyle, can you imagine that? 140 kids. You and I have problems with our two. I've got two that have, the reason we didn't do this last night is Kyle was a little busy, and my two came down with the flu. And I have been dealing with that. I'm going to be out all week dealing with this, and it is awful because they're coming in at night. So imagine that.
Yeah, but your own is different. I only have one at home. So.
Oh, don't worry. Brett told me there's 3 more coming. I see your face.
Wait a minute.
Brett!
From where?
From where? Math.
Multiplication. There we go. That's easy.
Multiplication. But imagine that. Imagine having 140 kids.
I'm wrapping my head around the 110 because that's 10 times more kids than I graduated high school with.
It's a big building. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Our building is that high school she teaches in, Kyle, is over 1 million square feet. And it's about to get a lot bigger with the new section that they're adding on.
3,500 kids, grades 10 through 12.
Wow. I think that's how many are in the town that I live in, like people. So
They just got a stop sign.
I mean, it's
well, we
massive.
got the blinky. Well, no, actually, no. They replaced the blinky red light, and now we have the green, yellow, and red. We have all three colors now. So we're.
But you got a stop light?
Yeah,
You guys are moving up.
yeah. We got that one, and then they replaced the 4-way stop sign downtown. So like we're really doing well.
And they used math to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, we need 3 lights now instead of 1.
Mhm.
Math.
And people complained. Anyway,
Mostly Kyle.
no, I didn't.
I
care,
don't know
but
what to do. What is the green one?
that was just the stupid. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But that is a way whole other. That's yeah.
That'll
So-
be episode 101.
Yeah.
Stoplights versus Kyle.
Stoplights versus Kyle. Stoplights win. So we got you kind of hit on it just briefly a little bit. You taught your high school now. You done some college teaching. Tell us a little bit about your education background. Obviously math. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I knew for a long time I wanted to be a teacher, but that's something I keep on the DL. I was homeschooled in high school. So, I mean, I don't think I had no context for like what would high school teaching be like. So, I was really privileged and was able to take concurrent classes at TCC when I was in high school. And so I was like, oh, I love this. I think I could see myself doing this. So I went into college with the intention of being a college professor. So I got my undergrad in pure mathematics at Oklahoma Wesleyan University. That's where I met Brett. And then we both moved to South Dakota, where he's from, to get our master's. So he has his master's in accountancy, and I got my master's in pure math with a emphasis in advanced calculus. But during while I was getting my master's, I got to teach a few sections of college algebra. Like that's how, I paid for graduate school. And I just loved that. I loved that aspect of grad school. Getting to teach the undergrads and just kind of helping them feel confident in this course that a lot of them were dreading taking, honestly, or had already taken and failed. So I very much enjoyed the classes I was taking, but I think my favorite part of grad school was getting to teach, and which was great because that's what I wanted to do. So I decided to take a quote break from my education, and the plan initially was to go all the way through and get my PhD. And I really just had a couple classes I would have needed to take, plus, a dissertation, which is no small thing, obviously, but I was like, I'll take a break. I'll come back to this. I'm really loving teaching. I had done both degrees in 5 years. So it was I kind of needed a breather. So then I accepted that job at Tulsa Community College, but part of my assignment was teaching, that's where I met Chris, the concurrent classes at Union High School. And I was like, well, this is very serendipitous, full circle, because that's how everything started for me, was concurrent classes. So I did that for a year and I loved it. But as I was doing it, I was like, I really enjoy my classes that I'm teaching at Union. And I found myself getting kind of jealous of the high school teachers there, because I was like, they teach similar content, but they get all year instead of a semester, and they get 5 days a week with these kids instead of 3. And that just felt like such a luxury to get all this time with these kids. Whereas I had such a short amount of time to teach, honestly, sometimes the same amount of material. So my the liaison between TCC and Union also happened to be the principal at Union at the time, and she encouraged me to get my alternative certification, not to be confused with emergency certification. And I did that, and then that following year I started teaching at Union full-time, and the rest is history.
And we will call her by name. She is one of my favorite people in this world, Lisa Witcher.
The best of the best.
She is one of my absolute favorite people in this world.
Me too. Me too.
But we are certainly lucky that you made the jump. I'll put it that way.
Thank you. It was meant to be.
Okay, and I've got to ask because I'm hearing it in the background. Is that Coco Melon in the background or?
No, it's Pokemon.
Okay, I thought I heard Pikachu for a sec, but I wasn't sure. And
we're diving in deep.
Hey, don't feel bad because yours is about the same age as my youngest and his youngest. His youngest is 1 year older than my youngest.
Okay, yeah.
So we're all very familiar with any of those sounds that may come out or random. Mommy, mama. Yes. Any of those. If there's any interruptions during this, don't worry about it. Like that happens to our podcast a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of old episodes where you see me just kind
of. And me too. Yeah. Or we go. And like, there's one where my youngest will come up and just come right here, and you'll see.
Yes.
And it's like, no, okay, go away. You're too young to be on the internet.
Yeah, it happened.
Wait till college. So what age did you know okay, two-part question. Is there any other teachers in your family? I know you have a fairly big family, if I remember. Is there anyone else as a teacher? And what age did you figure out you wanted to be a teacher?
There are no other teachers on my side of the family. Brett comes from a long line of teachers. My sister has a degree in education and she taught for a year and she said she was one and done. That was it. And I can't say I blame her because it's, it's not good. Yeah. And she had a really tough year. I don't know that I would have survived that year either, to be honest. And yes, I have known, I feel like forever that I knew I wanted to be a teacher. And I just kind of like, when I was in first grade, I wanted to be a first grade teacher. When I was in third grade, I wanted to be a third grade teacher, which explains why like I didn't pursue high school teaching initially because I didn't have like a traditional high school experience. But the only other thing I really thought about doing, funny enough, was working for the National Security Agency because they hire more mathematicians than any other organization in the world. So, encoding, decoding, that kind of thing, really like applied mathematics, but it's, it's a huge commitment. I mean, it's not something you do for a couple years and can get out if you're not.
For the NSA? No.
Yeah.
They're happy letting anyone walk in the door and then just leaving with like a armful of boxes. They're fine with that.
Yeah. Right. Totally cool.
Yeah, they're fine with that, right, Kyle?
Yeah, it's fine. Fine. Oh, my NSA guy's probably watching me super heavy right now anyway, so.
Yeah, that's true. He's under watch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for the stoplight in town.
Causing a ruckus.
He got mad at it and started yelling at it one night.
Like, no, you stop. So
yeah.
Tell me what to do, sign.
Well, that's really interesting to hear that you have no educators in your background, and then because a lot of the stories we hear are, I come from a long line of teachers, or my mom was a teacher, so it made me want to do it. So it's really interesting that you chose to do it and stuck with it.
Yeah, no, you're right. That is weird. I'm like everybody in my family, pretty much, other than my sister who has the education. My sister who has the education degree isn't an educator anymore. We like flip-flopped, but everybody is in the medical field. Like my dad's a doctor, my mom's a nurse, my other sister's a nurse, my brother, there's a 13-year age gap, but he's studying to be a doctor right now. I mean,
wow.
I am the black sheep of the family.
I know that. Kyle knows that one too.
They're very proud, but it's
Well, your passion for it definitely shows, because you made a comment a little earlier about when you were teaching at the college, and you were jealous of the teachers that got to have 5 days a week with them instead of 3 days a week. And I think that shows like there's a passion there for like helping and
Service.
wanting to teach and wanting to see these kids grow and learn that and just in nationwide for sure, but definitely in our state that we definitely need. I mean, with the teacher shortage and with just trying to keep people there, like I would, speaking of, this is how bad the shortage is. I think I was at parent teacher conferences for my little guy in kindergarten. I've known the superintendent for several years. My background is so far from education. And we were like striking up conversation. He's asked what I was doing for work now. Like I almost thought about trying to go get the emergency certificate so I could go teach and go from there. And his eyes lit up like, no, you don't want that. Never mind. Like, he's like, no, you should go do it. Like, no, you don't want. I changed my mind. You don't want me. Trust me. But
yeah, so we hit a record high of 3,600 emergency certifications this year in Oklahoma, which we were in like the 30s total, like 10 years ago, we are projected to lose over 4,000 teachers this year due to retirement and attrition.
Not when they come back.
Yeah, exactly. And we only have 1,100 kids graduating from college in May with education degrees. So like, I mean, we truly are not creating enough teachers. I mean, we're just not.
No. And I don't remember if I said this last episode or not. I think at Union, we lost 154 over Christmas.
wow.
Just, I know 2 of them who told me straight up, it's awful. Parents yell at me. They expect me to watch their kids. The kids are not great right now. I can't do it. And so I think it takes a special kind of person to want to stick it out right now. Brings us back to, you want to serve. You want to be there for the kids, and you have to actually have the passion to help the kids. The whole reason that we're there are the kids. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I joke, but like they're our boss.
They really are. As much as I hate saying that.
Yeah. I mean, that can very much be taken out of context and not how I intend it to be. But I think like
you can't do any worse than Chris does with context. You're fine.
So. You're golden. I am the king of misspeaking.
You're doing great on that.
You're phenomenal. Yeah, I'm sure I'll stick my foot in my mouth soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're only like halfway through the list. So yeah, we got plenty of time for you to do something.
You have to mess it up.
Wrong button, wasn't it?
Nope, that was the right one. That was me scuttling away. So, well, number 10, I don't even know if we need to go over because she kind of answered that.
We just kind of hit that.
Yeah, our number 10 question was, what else did you want to be?
Oh, yeah.
And what cemented your decision to be in education? You kind of hit that. So,
yeah.
Awesome. Go over what your typical day is like, your hours, like how much time does teaching take for you? And does it take away time from your family? Is there a good balance? Do you have to put a firm divider in there, say, this is family time now, I'm not going to think about anything else?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I don't know that there is a typical day in teaching. But yeah, I get to school at about 7:30, and I spend the morning, doing my special rain dances to make sure all the technology works and all that.
Ow.
Yeah, Chris.
Ow. Thank you. You've been lovely.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just getting the classroom set up, making sure I've got everything ready to go for that day. The first bell rings at 8:05, so the first class starts at 8:10. I really try to make sure that I'm like out there greeting students during those 5-minute passing periods. And I'll teach first, second, third, and fourth back to back to back. And that's, again, this year it's all calculus, which is different for me. I usually have at least 2, if not 3 preps, but this year is all AP Calculus AP, which is basically Calc 1. Then 4th hour ends at, let's see here, 12:20. And I usually stay in my room for like 10 minutes to answer the emails I haven't had a chance to look at throughout the day. And then I'll go grab lunch. Usually I get there at like 12:45 and I'll have 20 minutes because the bell rings at 1:05. And then I'll teach 5th hour from 1:10 to 2:10. And then I have 6th hour plan from 2:15 to 3:11. And during plan, I plan. Again, I grade. Having taught this course now for a while, and having taught from the same book now for a few years, there's not as much which questions should I assign? It's more now like, oh, can I make this lesson better, for this year? Or like, I didn't really love that activity from last year. Is there a better activity we can do? Or, they really struggled with this question, the assignment, like, how can I scaffold it to where they're not gonna struggle as much when they're on their own? So that's really, to me, I think one of the reasons really creative people stay in teaching, because it is such a creative outlet for us. And we have, with the right administration, we have a lot of autonomy. So I think that a lot of the teachers I really respect and look up to get like really giddy about like creating, a better activity for this objective. And that's something you get to do once you've really taught the material for a long time, because you know the material inside and out, what's coming up. So like, you know where they're going to stumble. And so I guess there could be this temptation of just like, well, I'm going to do what I did last year. But I really enjoy, not that every lesson's new every year, I don't want to say that, but I really enjoy bringing like that creative aspect to my work and to my teaching. I usually leave work around, so once the bell rings, sometimes I'll have duty after school, and then I'll come back to my classroom, and sometimes I have after school tutoring, but for the most part, I usually just stay in my classroom and continue to grade and plan, and I leave around between 4 and 4:30 most days. And then sometimes I will work on stuff at home. I don't do any grading at home. That's like my hard and fast rule. Sometimes if I get like, a creative spark, like you can't deny that, you just gotta work on that when it comes. So sometimes I do work at home, but it's usually something I'm like, that just like comes to me and I'm excited to work on. As an advanced math teacher, I write a lot of rec letters, like a lot. And that I usually save for the weekends. So I will, during like admission season, I'll write probably 2 rec letters every weekend. But yeah, I try to keep a pretty healthy balance. I have a ridiculously supportive husband. And so we divide a lot of the like chores at home. So yeah, I feel like I have a pretty good balance now. I won't say that it has always been that way.
Sure. How many years did it take to get to this point, like to find the balance?
I think it more depends on like what you're teaching, like every time you have a new prep or every time you adopt new textbooks, like it's like whoa. Or anytime you choose to do a huge overhaul of your courses, like last year, I decided to flip both my courses. And I mean, it was just incredibly time consuming. But I'm reaping some of the benefits of that now because I'm not having to make videos for every single lesson.
Right.
Multiple courses.
See, that's awesome. So as you all heard, it's not, and you heard it last week too, for those of you who listened to part 1 of the education podcast, it's not a one and done. It's not ever a one and done. It's not a one size fits all. I think Rebecca nailed it on the head there. You have to be a creative person, in my opinion, to teach, because you're constantly reinventing your lessons on how you get through to the kids, because not every kid learns the same. It's like we've said before, like, I'm a visual learner. I cannot, and that's why I think I'm kind of the oddball in the computer field. Most computer people can just read it and go, oh yeah, let's do it like this, and this. Me, I have to draw it. I have to see it. I have to play around with it for it to be concrete. And that's how I get it. And that's like one thing that, like, I think some of the bosses that I've worked for in technology just don't get, because they're so high up there with that mental, like, oh yeah, let's do it all in our head. They don't understand that everyone is different. Yeah. And I think that's what makes the difference between a good teacher and a great teacher.
Yeah.
They can understand that. So that's really cool to hear that that's what you're doing. Not that you're spending a lot of time on it.
You know, because it's like, it becomes like this puzzle, you know. So like, ooh, okay, like this is going to work well for my kinesthetic learners, but like, what about my auditory learners? Or this activity is going to be great for my extroverts. What about my introverts? Like, and so I don't know. I mean, that part really speaks to me as well, because it's problem solving,
which is amazing in itself. It really is, that you do this undertaking. And I think another benefit that you're seeing from your hard work is the award you just got. That shows your dedication, and which is really amazing.
It's wild. Like, it's a dream.
So, and we are actually going to talk about her award here and how that's changed her towards the end here.
There was something you said towards the end of the last little bit with planning and all that. Like, you know, you don't have to do the videos as much anymore, and so that's a really good lead into the last couple of years. We've all been affected by this in some way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah.
And so you were teaching before. How did it change the way you taught when COVID started, and how, now that we're coming back to a sense of semi-normalcy and things, you know, less virtual and more in class, like, what have you taken from the time of COVID and applied it to how you used to teach in the before times to now? And like, how did that shape how you teach now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that, I mean, we had that shutdown in the spring of 2020, and then that summer of 2020, I was given my schedule, and I had calculus and pre-calculus. I had 3 face-to-face calculus sections, 1 face-to-face pre-calculus section, and 1, I said, give me all the virtual calc kids, because I didn't want them to be thrown into some platform with not a teacher, you know, just like a monitor basically. But like within these sections, they were just so fluid, you know, like you'd have a kid in face-to-face that is quarantined, or a kid that's in face-to-face but is like truly sick, a kid that's virtual but does come to campus for other things, a kid that is face-to-face but has opted, I mean, we allowed them to like opt out basically of coming to class for months at a time. And so there were, I mean, there are just so many different like pockets of students. And I just thought, like, how am I going to keep everybody like essentially on the same page? And, you know, we were told not officially, but like we expect to be in distance learning by Labor Day is what I was told. Like don't expect to be in person very long, which obviously was not the case. But in my head, like I had to find a way to transition in and out of distance learning. And so I started researching different models, and I really fell in love with the flipped model, which is hysterical because I had really like, what's the American phrase? Turn my nose up. What is it? I struggle with Americans. I'm not from here. Anyway, I'd really like.
I know what you're saying. Now I'm blanking. Thank you.
But the more I researched it, and also, I mean, technology has just obviously, like educational technology, as you know, Chris, has just like exploded, and what you have access to is just phenomenal. So the flipped model, the idea is that the lesson and the assignment are flipped. So instead of coming to class and, in my opinion, kind of like passively listening to a lecture and then going home and like struggling with that assignment, you do the opposite. So you listen to the lecture at home, and you come and do the active part, right? The actual work of it together and in sort of like, you know, this community of your classroom. And again, like I mean, I researched this because of the times. I truly never, I thought, you know, what I'm doing is fine, it's working, but so I never would have like even considered this had it not been for the pandemic. But then going through it last year through, I mean, I think a semi-unstable school year. I was like,
at least.
Yeah. I'm like never going back to traditional teaching. I love that this model, I'm not doing math in front of my students, I'm doing math with my students. They have quite a bit more accountability when it comes to the lesson, because if you're giving the lesson live, you can't go at 37 different paces for 37 different kids, you know, I mean, that's impossible. But when they're watching it at home, they can pause, they can rewind, they can speed me up, they can slow me down, and they have to answer questions along the way. So they can't just hit play, go watch Netflix and come back and submit. Like they have to be answering questions, and they don't have to answer correctly to get full credit. It's just like in class, these rhetorical questions. If I ask the class a question, they're not going to get penalized for answering, you know. But what I love about it is that every kid has a voice now, because when you are giving this lecture and you know, ask these like to the whole class question, the same three people answer, right? But when they're watching this at home, everybody has to answer. Again, it doesn't have to be right, but they have to be engaged with the content. I try not to say you're going to go watch a video. I try to say you're going to go engage with the content at home on your own time. And the lessons are short, you know, like 10 to 20 minutes of recorded time. I mean, I understand it usually takes longer to watch it and take notes, but I'm not asking a ton for like an AP course. Then when we get to class, we'll recap the lesson, and so we have a lot more time to like synthesize and really like wrap our heads around what we just learned. And that allows, again, for like a creative outlet for me, like how are we going to synthesize today? So we have time for a lot more activities with this model. And then they get time to just work with each other and work on the assignment. They sit in tables, like in groups, so they can ask their group questions. They can ask me questions. And I just had a student the other day say it's like so much better for my mental health because I know what my homework is, and it's to watch this lesson, and that is doable. Like I know I can do that. All I have to do is set aside the time. Whereas before, like I wasn't sure if I was going to struggle with it at home or not, if it was going to take me 10 minutes or 3 hours, you know? So I think teenagers deserve that from us. Like they have a lot going on, and they're already in school a long time. So I don't feel that we need to be, I mean, if all 6 classes gave an hour of homework, when would they sleep? You know?
They don't.
So
unfortunately,
that's something that really has changed me as a teacher, and that I'm a little bit ashamed to say that I had never given it the time of day before the pandemic, but it's definitely something good for me personally that's come out of the pandemic. And my students seem to really, really, I don't know if enjoy it is the right word, but be grateful for it. They seem to
Grateful, which that's a great way to put it. And I think you hit the nail on the head there where you said that there is, because it's been an unstable couple years because of the pandemic. Like I know that I've seen a little bit of regression with my two girls.
Sure, yeah.
I've seen it firsthand. I think Kyle can safely say the same.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I will tell you, yeah, and that's it. And another thing that I think came out of this was, and this is not a knock at our district, and this is exactly what we're talking about. Hi, buddy.
Can you say hi?
Hi.
This is Jonas.
Hello, Jonas. This is our future generation right here.
Mm-hmm.
Good looking boy.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing you look like your mama, not your daddy.
Yeah, everybody's like, he's a spitting image of Brett. And I'm like, I know. I was an incubator.
No, I'm going with you. Brett gets no credit. He gets no credit. One of the things that I think was really hard for you all, I want to hear you guys' side of this too, your side of this. When most districts go one-to-one, make the decision to go one-to-one for their kids, that's one student device per child. So for our district, we actually lost some kids. So where it's like 14,396, I think it is now, last count, give or take. They have years to plan this out. To say, here's what we're going to do. Here's what, and the technology part's easy. We just buy the stuff. We buy the crap. We hand it. I mean, it's not easy, but I think it's easier than trying to do the instructional side. And I think that's one of the things that has hurt the most. I feel, and I'm sure I'll get in trouble for saying this, but I'm gonna say it anyway, because this is my honest opinion. I think we're just now starting to get settled into the one-to-one model on how to use the online instruction, how to do that. And I know there's still a lot of resistance to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
to
be fair, it's
in there where we were forced to really go with it.
We were thrown in with literally with the alligators and the crocodiles and the piranhas all in the same pool. And it's one of those kiddie wading pools where you didn't have any time to actually tread water. You just jump in.
100%. Mm-hmm.
And I think you all have done a phenomenal job. I think everyone's done the best that they can.
I think so too. No,
with the situation. How I know from our perspective, from the technology side, the hardware side, it's been difficult. How has it been from the instructional side, having to learn all these new processes? And I'm going to say it's, no district likes to admit that it's incomplete, but I think anyone who's honest and wants just transparency will say, yeah, it was incomplete because we were thrown into it within the period of 4 months. And we're just now starting to get into the groove. How was it from the instructional side? How difficult was it?
Yeah, I think we're still seeing the difficulty in when we have a virtual day, and I'm spoiled in that the classes I currently teach, most of my students are gonna do what I ask them to do, right? But when I talk to teachers who are not teaching what we term advanced classes, they oftentimes have very little participation those days. And so I think that part's really difficult when you're relying solely on technology, and you can't have the kids right there. It's a challenge. I know, thankfully, we had that summer to prep, after when we shut down, I was making very Neanderthal-like videos for my students because they were still trying to pass the AP exam, right? So I was just literally screen recording my iPad and putting it on YouTube, which is just comical. But then we, thank God we had that summer to like wrap our heads around like what do we want to do in the event. And because we were told, you know, it's not if, it's when we pivot. And I mean, thankfully we have like really amazing IT staff and people we can say like, okay, this is like what I'm envisioning. Can you help me? And so I do, I really like give you all props because it was hard, but it was hard because of the situation, you know? But just training our kids to like, how do you, you know, I want your math work scanned as a PDF and submitted onto this page right here. I don't want 5 images emailed me times 140. And it's like, you know, we are again year 3 into this and still on virtual days. I'll have students be like, I couldn't get it to submit. Here, take these photos instead. It's because it's not a PDF. So yeah, it is what it is.
It's a difficult position you're in. It really is. And I think you all are making the best that you can of the situation and what you're given. And I commend you all. I really do. It's I know Kyle and I wouldn't want to be in that position.
No,
look at him.
No. I struggle with the virtual days.
Yes,
We have
we all do.
If I'm home in it, I
no one's a fan. No one's a fan. Can we put this on record?
No,
agree.
And it's go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm the time that I spend trying to even do like, you know, virtual kindergarten.
Yes.
With a 6-year-old, like I couldn't imagine. Like, man, what if there was like 30 of them here? Oh
Virtual,
shit! No,
yeah.
I couldn't do it. Like, I could not.
Virtual is not for young kids. I think that what this one thing that the pandemic has taught us is it's barely for the secondary kids. It
And
takes,
even so, I think like in moderation.
In moderation, right? Not like 2 weeks at a time,
right?
Or 3 weeks at a time.
Not
And
like,
no. And littles cannot do virtual.
No.
Well,
like,
luckily mine didn't. They were getting packets sent with them the last
we got both.
ice days or whatever. But even then, I'm just like,
even
oh my god, there's
Wow.
so much stuff here.
Mhm.
And then like he's at
And
home
they learn
and
so much at that age, like socially and emotionally. Am I allowed to say that? Like in Oklahoma, but I mean, they learn so much by just being with other kids
Right.
at not all ages, but I think especially like when they're that young, that's a huge part of their education. Is like, oh, I'm not supposed to talk right now, you know, and they miss out on that.
I hate saying it like this, but monkey see, monkey do.
100%, and like herd mentality.
No, that's 100% it. And it's just, I don't know. It's like, you know, I know I asked my youngest, you know, like, okay, so what do you do on this? Or did you watch your video? And I'll get, I like chocolate milk. Well, that's great, but we're not done watching this video yet. Then we can talk about chocolate milk. Yeah.
I know you want to ask your teacher, do I have to?
Well, the way I bribe is like, she'll come in with like a mouthful of like Oreos all over the place. I'm like, you know,
a little
the
bit
lady
of
of the house
geography
will ask, yeah, she's like, did you give her cookies? No.
You both come walking out just covered in Oreos and crumbs.
And regret.
Just feel sad.
Mostly regret for me. Or regret.
All the regrets.
All the regrets. Okay. Kyle.
Okay, so this one, and you can answer this as vaguely or
because we don't want to get
personal with it, or just like, you know, whatever. Because we just know that this is something that happens because just the funding situation in the state as a whole. You have things that's provided, you know, supplies and such that are provided to you by the school. And then you have the things in your classroom that come out of your own pocket. And it's like, yes,
She already
Yes.
knows where this is going.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, and you don't have to be specific with it if you don't want to, but the question that we'd asked before is how much comes out of your own pocket just for your classroom for your students, not even just for the things that necessarily that you need, just to be able to, the things for the kids that they need to be able to, effectively learn.
Yeah. That's a great question too. I am very, very lucky in that I do work in such a supportive district. I mean, like the summer is like, I really want, tables instead of just these desks. And I like walk in one day and I have tables there, but yeah, there's a lot of just little things that I end up buying. I think that a lot of it's like last minute, like, well, like we celebrate birthdays and, oh, I need like candy for that. And I need my special like vinyl paper so I can make them stupid calculus stickers, which only, my sweet nerds really love. Or like I'll make ornaments during winter break. And yeah, or I don't know, like when we're talking about motion along a horizontal axis, like our initial function's position, and then its derivative is velocity, its derivative is acceleration, but after that is jerk, and after that it's snap, crackle, pop. So like, how can you not have Rice Krispie treats that day, so just like, I think a lot of what I spend my money on would probably be consumables, because that's stuff like I can't get grants for. This year I kind of wisened up and just sort of thought ahead of time, and I made one of those like Amazon teacher wish lists and sent it to the parents, and they were so generous, and it was just like boom. I mean, stuff was just taken care of. And so like I had a ton of candy to start out the school year with, and dry erase markers and papers and laminating pouches, and even just like a diffuser for my classroom, and like cleaning supplies and all that. So that was really great. We have an educational foundation at Union that is just outrageously generous. Every grant I've ever asked for them, they have funded. And I've written grants for just like regular classroom supplies. I've written grants for games and bookshelves. I've written a grant for an iPad and an Apple TV. So just like the spectrum of stuff, and they're just like, yes, you've got it. And then this year, I also wrote that grant that the State Department funded through Donors Choose. And now my whole like back wall of my classroom has these beautiful like glass like whiteboards, like what you picture in like fancy colleges,
They're awesome. They're awesome.
They're beautiful. So I think as I've been in this gig a little bit longer, I see that there really are amazing ways to fund projects for your classroom. You just kind of have to go for them. And so if you're familiar with the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 2. I say I'm like a 1.6. I'm right between a 1 and a 2, but the 2 is the helper. And like, I just love to help, which I sometimes have to tell my students, like, I'm sitting here today and I'm purposely not helping because you need to figure it out on your own. But with that, sometimes it's really hard for me to like accept help. And so what I would encourage educators is to just like accept the help. There are means out there, and people really want to fund classrooms. Like they really want to help. And that money, quite frankly, shouldn't come out of your wallet, because it's not going to you. It's going to it's going to students and people. That's something like we can all agree on. We can all agree that our students should have the resources they need. Like this is like across all aisles. So yeah, I would say like take advantage of those grants that are out there, or Amazon wish lists, whatever. Like people really do want to help.
You weren't expecting that one, were you, Kyle?
No, not at all. That was awesome though.
That was a great answer.
Mm-hmm. just the resources that are out there.
Yeah, especially now with like how connected we are as a society, you know, like people want to help.
Which is
Okay, we got to wrap it up. Got a text from my husband.
okay. Well, we will go a couple. You tell him you're important here to us, and he needs to go give the kid a bath. Okay, so let's do this. Kyle, you pick one, and I'll pick one.
Well,
And
we
then
can
we'll go with
do
that and finish it up.
number 19 combo that, because that one might take a little. Just
Yeah, let's do 19. That might take.
Let's
a
just
little
do
bit.
that.
Okay.
With it.
So, what does it mean to you to be the state teacher of the year for the state of Oklahoma for 2022?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's like, it's the honor of a lifetime. There were 11 other finalists, and truly any of the 11 could have won this title. It really like, I've gotten a lot of like, oh, you're so deserving. And it's just like, it just doesn't sit right with me, because there are so many teachers that are deserving. And so for me, like, I take it very, very seriously that I'm representing some of the very best teachers in the state and in this country, I think. So it's truly an honor, but it's just not something I take lightly. What I say is like, this isn't like, oh, let's find the best teacher out there, because there's no such thing. There's no such thing as the best teacher. You can't compare a pre-K teacher to a calculus teacher. I mean, you just can't. But what this title is supposed to be is it's supposed to be an advocate for teachers. And this is my chance to try to encourage teachers and lift teachers, to help retain the teachers we have, and to encourage young people to consider education as a career. And so that's what this title means to me, is an opportunity to really shine a light on the good and important work that Oklahoma teachers are doing.
Which is awesome. Honestly, I can't think of a better person who deserves this title, who's a better advocate for teachers than you. So
I'm proud.
You are. You should, just based on the support that I've seen when you got it, that says a lot. It says a lot for your character and your hard work and your dedication. So we appreciate you.
People have been incredibly generous and incredibly generous.
So is there anything that you want to leave as parting words for anyone listening to this?
Well, I would say, if there are students, I want to thank you for letting us do what we do. Like, I am who I am because of my students. I think they bring out the best in me, and I feel very, very lucky that I get to do what I do day in and day out, and I wouldn't get to do it without them. So for students, I just say thank you. And I hope that you all stay true to yourselves, because we need who you were created to be. And if there are teachers listening, I would say a huge thank you, and that I see you. I see what these 3 years have done. I think there's never been a harder time to be a teacher. I really do believe that. And so I just want to tell teachers that I see them, and it's not lost on me. Like the lesson plans that have been made and remade and countless times, it's not lost on me that they are coming in early and staying late to remediate and to make up for those learning losses. It's not lost on me the extra patience it takes to deal with behavior now, because it's not just been academic learning losses that they're facing, it's behavioral learning losses as well, and social emotional learning losses. And so the work teachers are doing right now is incredibly challenging, but I hope, teachers, I want you to know that it is good and important work. I think public education is what's still right with our society, and I think that access to high quality free education is the bedrock of democracy, and teachers are at the heart of that. Public education, the foundation of it is that everybody's in, no matter your skin color, or your zip code, or your gender, or ethnicity, what parents make, immigration status, whatever, like you're in, you belong, you have a seat at the table, and that's the foundation of society, and teachers play such a critical role in safeguarding that, right? So teachers, I applaud you. I am so very proud to be one of you, and I hope that you get some good rest over spring break.
That is, I don't think we could have said better, because we couldn't have.
No, I know I couldn't.
No, we
And-
smart, but we're not that smart.
We try. So.
Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for taking time out of your free time to do this with
Thanks
us.
for having me.
With that, this has been Every Man's Guide to Nerddom. I'm Chris.
And I'm Kyle. And again, thank you very much for being on the show. It was
My joy, my
great
honor.
to have you on, and just to hear your insight on just the state of education in the state right now. So again, we just really appreciate you being on. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on. And for everybody out there listening, wherever you are, have a good morning, good night, good evening, whatever time it is, and please be good to each other.
See ya.
Nerd Corps, rise up. It could get elevated. Nerd Corps, rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore used to be just a made up